All right, guys. I guess we'll start it up. Quick, I guess, announcement. The disclaimer that was posted. Did you post it in the general chat or
I posted it in this chat, but I
in
could
the?
also post it in the general chat because I can't ping anything here.
Yeah, let's post it into the general chat. So last time, for those of you who are here for the last AMA, I read out a really long and unnecessary disclaimer at the beginning of the AMA, but I won't read it out this time. Um, but please, if you have the chance, or if you're listening to the recording, the disclaimer is going to be pinned in the general chat for the Arcadian Reclaim Discord. It's just going to have some information about how a lot of these things are not set in stone. Just silly legalese to keep our asses in check.
Yes,
um,
do not sue me.
with that said, we're going to be starting off our talks about resource gathering. So, Dee, I'll let you take it away.
Hi, where do I even start? I assume most people know about what creatures will do what, but I'll just go on from the start. Let me open my fake document while I gather my thoughts. So, the way that the resource gathering is going to be laid out is that the seals will gather food and they will gather treasure. Food will be needed by every creature that does any task whatsoever. So as your otters gather wood, they gather stone, they will get tired. Basically, the exhaustion system is going to work in a way that whenever you do a task, you start off with a 5% chance to just fail it because you might get tired. And if you succeed without failing, the next time you do that task, it's going to be 10%. If it happens again and you dodge exhaustion, it's going to be 15%, and so on. And the fish is going to negate that. So basically, you eat the fish that your seals gather, and that enables you to keep working on other things. Also, there will be brackets for different times. So if you have things to do during the day, you can set your creatures to gather resources for like 16 hours. The brackets are going to be randomized, so the third bracket, for example, would be like 9 to 16 hours. We're trying to make it so that we respect your time, and hopefully the game isn't an actual annoyance and it's actually fun. I'm not great with details, so I'll try to explain further as people ask me questions.
Are you ready for questions, Dee? Or
I
do you have?
love questions. Questions are so much better than me just explaining things. I love it.
All right. So far, does anyone have any questions about resource gathering mechanics? Anything at all? I know that this is probably pretty sudden and there's a lot to think about and digest, but D requires questions, everyone, essentially.
I do.
We have a couple people typing.
So otters are going to gather wood and stone, while seals will gather fish and gather treasure. Treasure are going to be random resources, chests, maybe some PDWL tokens. But basically, you should have seals if you want your otters to properly work, or alternatively, you can trade for fish that gets gathered by seals.
So to reiterate, Cell Power asked, just otters gather resources, and no, it's not just otters. Otters,
Yeah.
it's going to be the other creatures as well. Um, is that it for that question? D, is there anything else you
Yeah.
want to add? Okay. Dan
No.
Minch asks, will there be a base one resource gathered, or will it be like 1 to 2 or something along those lines?
So we'll start off with just one resource per category, and then you would refine those into better ones. Though I have to say, in the future, as you want to like mint stuff or create new things, build buildings, most of the things will require you to have all tiers of resources. So you want to keep some of the lower ones, you want to refine some. It's a mix of everything.
All right. Edad asks, otter gather wood and stone, seal gather fish and food and treasure, frog farm token. So just confirmation on
Yep.
these. Okay.
Yep.
And then minimum grunt wanted to expand on Dan Mitch's question. Is going to ask this along the lines of a booster set to gain more. So will there be boosters?
After resource gathering is out, our main goal is to add evolutions, which I've talked about before, to where whenever you do a task, there's a percentage for you to actually improve with what you're doing. But every evolution is different, so everyone improves differently. Yeah. So yeah, definitely boosts as we go along, as your creatures just improve and do better at what they're doing.
All right. Fornos asks, when squid?
After some really stupid bird.
That's some alpha for you guys.
Yes.
Really stupid bird. Midas asks, how many tiers will there be?
At first, I was thinking about 3, but as we build out things, we're free to like consider more. We might add tiers, but also just add more to every tier as well. So we'll see how things work out. But initially, it's going to be first tier, then we add refining, so it's 2 tiers, and then the third tier on top of that. But as I said before, you need all tiers of items to actually create things. You should not be focused on just refining everything.
All right. Two-part question from Akram. Any sneak peeks of what's inside the mythic chest?
Oh yeah. So the mythic chest. There's only 33 right now. So that means there's only amazing stuff inside. I have no intention for you to open a mythic chest and it be empty. I don't want to be killed by someone from the community. So these chests should have amazing stuff. So for example, maybe there's a mythic otter in one of the mythic chests. Maybe there's founder passes inside. Maybe there's transcendent tadpoles in the mythic chests. Maybe a mythic chest gives you something and has another mythic chest inside. How about that?
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, but also, the way that chests are going to work is that I want lockpicking to be a skill. So the better a chest is, the longer it takes for you to unlock it. And as you unlock chests, the creature that does the unlocking gets better at it. So, if you spam chest unlocking with a specific creature, he gets better at it. So you do it quicker and more effectively.
And the second part of Akram's question was, can we open chests once resource gathering is live?
Sadly, not right away. I wish we could, but I can only hire so many people.
All right. Next question is from Merv. Do you have plans to implement staking or farming mechanisms to incentivize token holders to lock them and provide liquidity on the market?
So currently, if you provide liquidity on QuickSwap, you actually get a QuickSwap NFT, and they hold data, which I think it tells you like how much of the LP you have and all of that stuff. We'd love to implement that so that we can just work off of that. As far as like directly do it like in game, sure, but it's gonna take a lot of time and it's just not a current focus.
All right, next question is from Cell Power. What is the minimum of each creature we need to make resource gathering?
1. You can have just 1 otter if you want, and you can just try and gather stone or wood. The problem is that you'll hit a wall because you don't have fish to eat to restore the exhaustion of your otter. So if I was a starting player, I would try to have a mix of seals and otters. Yeah. But also, you know, who knows what the next mint is, right? Like maybe the next creature can gather food, or maybe it can, you know, who knows? Who knows? Something is coming.
On that note, Kubi Bread asks, when I have like 12 seals and 21 otters, will I have a lack of food?
Well, that depends how much do you eat, right? Are you an American? Are you an a European? Um, it does depend. It also depends.
Let's not throw elbows, all right? Okay. Let's keep
so,
it civil in chat, D.
so for example, like if you do tasks that take longer hours, the brackets with the time scale differently with how much exhaustion they generate. So you could plan around how much food you have, and it also depends how much risk do you want to take. Like if your otter is at like 30% exhaustion rate, do you want to lower it, or do you want to try and just keep on going and risking it? It's up to you. It's really all up to you.
All right, next question.
It will be different for every player.
Next question is, will a marketplace be established to sell or auction said resources, or will a pre-existing marketplace be used?
You can use OpenSea, but we have plans to make an in-game marketplace.
All right. Next question. Open chest requires mats like wood and tree, or do they need keys?
They need a creature assigned to the task of opening chests. Um, and I guess I'll leak this already, but opening chests is going to take time, right? And if you want to rush that task, be quicker, you might be able to just pay PDWL tokens to actually rush the chest opening. So that's another utility for the token that's
Some
coming up.
alpha for you guys. Write that down. Write that down. Someone asked, when mint day? Very important question.
Yeah, but see, they asked you, not me, so you have to answer.
I have to answer. No. That's
Yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah. They tagged you.
No. This question is for you. All these questions are for you, D. You're in the hot seat,
Mint,
not me.
mint day is gonna be whenever the resources are out, and then hopefully, a week or two after that, we do the mint, and then the dead is gonna shield the game in socials,
Yeah.
right?
Yep, of course. Yeah. I mean, I got the okay
Yeah,
for shilling, so
yeah,
we're about to board the shill
yeah.
train, guys.
Yeah, she's gonna bring on like 20,000 players day one, I guarantee, right?
Okay, let's
Right?
not go that far. Next question. I think this was one. But will the chest give PD whitelist token? Is that possible?
Uh, maybe
Maybe. Okay. Big maybe.
plausible.
All right. Another question. Will a detailed chart of all resources and rarity be given out, or will it be discoverable by the community?
Everything is going to be open to the people. Basically, we're not trying to hide any of the rates or any of the things that you can get within the chests, the rates of the resources. Everything is going to be open to the people.
All right. Next question. It's two-parter. What specific steps are being taken to incentivize liquidity providers to add more tokens to the LP? Start with that one.
0 steps.
0 steps. And
For
I do want to
now,
expand
0
on that too.
steps. For now, there's 0 steps for that. As I've said before, there's the quick swap NFTs that we can utilize. But other than that, I mean, it's just not a focus right now. We have more important things to do, and hopefully, the mints that are going to be upcoming will help us stabilize the LP by ourselves. Because depending how many mints are going to happen, we should be able to multiply the existing pool by like 40x or something. It's going to be obscene how much bigger the pool is going to be just after the mint.
All right, next question. How will the project ensure that providing liquidity is a lucrative opportunity for token?
Okay, so I want to say this right away. When I build everything out, my goal is not to make the PDWL token like moon or dump. Wherever it lands on and however people value it, that's how it's going to be. My goal is to make it so that it has uses within the game, and if the uses fall off, we create new uses. Everything is fluid, everything is adaptive. Nothing is set in stone, and there's no specific target price or anything like that. And as far as like providing liquidity, as I've said before, at the start we try to do that, and then maybe way down the line we incentivize players to do it.
All right. Next question is, how many transactions will need to be done in the game? Will we be able to send out creatures and perform actions without paying gas?
Oh my god, that's so perfect. So you know how you have to like sync all the time and pay stupid gas fees in most games? Well, the way that we build our game out, you don't have to freaking do that. Isn't it great? We're not trying to rob you. It's crazy. Yeah, all of the actions within the game will be basically Web 2. So whenever you send your creatures out, whenever you finish tasks, whenever you start anything, things should not require you to do transactions. Now, some things might. So if we have like events that are like either cross chain or with like other games resources, then you might need to do a transaction purely to claim stuff. And it's the same for our game, right? If you actually want to claim stuff, then it's a transaction. But as far as game actions go, as little transactions as possible. That's just not our like revenue model.
All right. We have a question about resources. As a player who only owns otters, will I be able to trade wood, stones for food and treasure?
Yeah, you can trade your stuff to get food. Though we will have caps, so you can't just, gather 3 wood and claim that 3 wood and dump it on repeat and on repeat. Because first of all, that would just destroy the whole purpose of not having the whole transaction thing, right? But yeah, you'll be able to trade your assets with other players and buy other stuff that you need. So if you want to just have others, go ahead. It's probably not optimal, but no one's stopping you from doing that.
All right. Next question is, with the release of resource gathering, how will you handle the demand or influx of players as seals and otters are limited?
As well, the new mint comes out. So there's a mint that's being worked on right now, and that's not for the passes, and that's not for the tacticals. There should be new creatures out after the resource gathering, hopefully a few weeks after. Yeah. We'll try to be as mobile as possible, and we are thinking ahead if we actually get like new people onboarded. And if we don't have enough at the time, I guess your bags are pumped or whatever. People like that, I guess. I don't know.
All right. Next, very important question: can PD whitelist tokens get dead merch for her Sim Squad? Please, please.
Wait,
Please.
what? What?
I'm sorry. I had to throw it in there.
I literally blanked on that, on all of that. Say that again, Ellie.
It's fine. No, that was just a joke. You can read the chat for that one. I won't repeat it again. I can't say it on command, but I might say it randomly.
Okay.
All right, so is there any more questions about resource gathering, the big resource gathering update? Anything else before we move on?
I just read that thing that you read out loud. Wow. I mean, hey, if people want like dead simp merch, hey, we can provide that for you. maybe there's like a dead mythic.
So
that's like some.
On that note, when merch? Actually, this is a question for me.
Yeah. Dad, when are you selling your bathwater? The
No
simps
comment.
might want.
No comment.
Oh God. I love
Uh,
merch. So everyone's freaking out. Guys, relax. I,
Good.
I thought she mentioned merch.
Yes.
What's the big
When
deal?
merch.
So at first, I'd like to just have at least team merch because we don't even have team merch. And if team merch is cool, and if people actually want stuff, then we can work on that. You know what I mean?
Quick
I do like.
question though, while we're on that topic, what would you guys like to see when
Yeah,
it comes to merch? What's most interesting for you guys? For those of you who are interested.
yeah. Like, why are people interested in Dead's simp merch but not mine? Like, I'm actually offended.
Dude, your head is already big enough. It doesn't need to get any larger. If it was any larger, I'm pretty sure you would be immobile at this point. Right, guys? Oh, D. He's so
Everyone's the
silent.
same. People just want hoodies. People want shirts. It's the same old, same old. Uh, Midas asks, so what would be a
Shirts.
good balance of creatures like otters and seals, 2-to-1 or like 1-to-1? As I've said before, it comes down to what's your risk tolerance and how often do you send them out. Um, so it's going to be different for each person, literally. I sound like a middle-aged man who eats potatoes. Well, that's kind of true. I live in Lithuania. I'm not, and I'm like almost 30, so
And he
it's
likes
right on
potatoes
point.
a lot. So, he does like potatoes.
Yes, I'm a simple man.
Some people mentioning fleece. Ooh, a cool idea to support plastic waste getting turned into clothes. Ooh, I like that idea a lot. That's actually a really, really good idea about sustainability uh, when we do release merch because it does fall in line with Project Dignity's ethos. That's a good
We
idea.
could we could we could do merch as like a fundraiser as well. I think that would be really nice. I don't want to just, you know. Hopefully, we introduce a lot of like charity ideas as we build out the game. It's not just about the profit.
All right, we have another question. Will there be an option to delegate your otters, seals, and future mints to other players who are lacking said creatures? So, some sort of renting system, I assume?
I would hope not. I'm not interested in like renting your creatures out. It just complicates things, and so I want people to understand that we have a pretty small team, and we're pretty inexperienced, like as it goes. So we've first focus on the actual gameplay, and everything else comes after. And I think renting in general, um, I'm just not a big fan. I think it's better to just release more assets for new players if they actually come in. Um, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of renting.
All right. Um, how will the project ensure the long-term sustainability and stability of the LP? I know that we kind of touched on this earlier, but there seems to be a lot of concern
RB,
about the LP.
RB, my man. I've answered this like 4 times just now. I can't keep doing it again. As I've said before, at first we'll try to stabilize it with our own mints, and then as time goes on, if everything is fine, then we use the quick swap NFTs, and hopefully then we can, incentivize people to do it. But at first, it's our job. If we suck at our job terribly, then you can go ahead and like be incentivized to help. Hopefully, we don't need to force you to LP.
All right, there we go. Um, oh, this is an interesting question. When will we have a level on the game? So, will there be trying to interpret this? I mean, at start, how will it affect the game? So, levels in the game, is that the thing?
Levels, as in creature
Creature
levels.
levels, I assume. Yes.
Um, I think instead of having levels, what we'll do is just evolutions, which if you want to interpret that as levels, it could be that, but it's not like a set number, because everyone grows dynamically, every creature grows dynamically, um, and every path is going to be different. So, you know, if you want to call it levels, sure, but it's not any like simple number and you just level up and then you pick a skill. It's just not that. It's more dynamic, I guess. So no levels, but there's evolutions.
Okay, no levels, but evolutions. Shukurti has some questions about making content for the project. We can talk offline about that, Shukurti. We'll probably closer to launch of Resource Gathering, we'll probably open up some sort of content creator specific channel, and then we'll tag you guys for anyone who is interested, and we can discuss that at a later time. He did ask when some playable mechanics. So I think
hopefully this month.
Coming when Resource Gathering, yeah, it's
right.
released.
Hopefully this month.
All right. I don't think that there's any more questions, so I think that we're ready to move on. We've been on this topic for a while. I know it's really, really big and complicated topic because this is our big release, but I do want to move on to talking about transcendent tadpoles. So, Dee, can you go into that?
Right. So we talked about this as I made that announcement. So at first, we announced the transcendent tadpoles to be just a one specific tadpole that is going to cost 1,000 PDWL tokens and a chipped or a healthy tadpole with a multiplier of like 5 PDWL per day. And I've seen a lot of people kind of not freak out, but a lot of people were upset because the LP is small, so it's really hard to buy the tokens. That not many people have gathered enough of them, which is why I made the announcement and asked people would they be interested in a smaller, I guess, a bit weaker of a tadpole that still has more or less the same mechanics. So what we decided is we will have 2 tiers for the tadpoles. The stronger tier is going to be what we proposed initially, which is going to cost 1,000 PDWL. A chipped or healthy tadpole is going to generate 5 PDWL tokens per day, and it's going to be immortal, meaning if you transfer the tadpole, it's not losing health. It's going to stay at its current state forever. It's going to be really good as long as it's there. And the other tier is going to cost 500 PDWL tokens. You'll still need a chipped or healthy tadpole. It's still going to be immortal, meaning you can just freely move it around and not lose anything around it. But the scaling on its generation isn't going to be the same, so it won't generate 2.5 PDWL per day. It will most likely be around 2. So slightly weaker. So you still have an incentive to go for the better one. But it's still really good. It's a worthy improvement over whatever you have right now.
All right. Any questions about transcendent tadpoles? And I'll just go over Selpar's question, which is not necessarily related to tadpoles, but we'll go over it while we wait. So what income is PD relying on? So SFL uses Blackbucks. Mom is now charging a monthly subscription. How do you plan on making enough money to keep running the game and salaries?
Bathwater.
Bathwater. Yes, that's the key, guys. D bathwater.
Yes. No, but really, so because we're not charging people on transactions, right? We're not gonna try to be predatory on you, like claiming stuff all the time as well. Instead, what we plan to do is just be very open about just releasing new mints that cost actual Matic, or USDC in the future. So the way we generate money is you buy founders passes, you buy the new collections. We're gonna have season passes probably as well. So instead of us like nagging you to get it, like instead of me trying to ask you to give me $1 like every 3 days, I'm just giving you, hey, this is the mint for this month, and it costs like $10, $15, whatever it's gonna be. Everything's up front and open instead of me trying to like get pennies from you every single day.
All right. Someone asked what happened with the lowest chip tadpole. I'm not entirely sure what the question is. I think maybe just are you asking what happens to the lowest health tadpoles? They just disappear.
No. So they stay as dying. So dying tadpoles still generate like I think it's like 0.1 PDWL per day. And if you're like incubating that with no frog, then you also get like a 50% debuff. So you're like getting, I mean, you're getting like nothing. Let's be honest.
Virtually
Which also,
nothing.
yeah, which also, maybe in the future you can fix your tadpoles some way. Maybe.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
it will make sense at a certain point, especially as new people come in.
So a question about the Transcendent Tadpole Mint. Which one's taken for Mint 500 or 1K? I might be misunderstanding the question. Can you
What was the
rephrase
question again?
that? Which one taken for Mint 500 or 1K? I I think he's just referring to the
Right.
tiers that you were
As
speaking about.
Yeah, as I've said before, there will be 2 tiers, and you choose whichever you wanna
Yes.
focus on. Hey, maybe you wanna get both of them. It's all up to you. Maybe instead of tier 1, you want to get 2 tier 2s, which are the lower ones. It's all up to you. So, in general, if people have ideas and if people don't like something that we propose, if you want to mint something, but it's not on the table and you have an idea, I'm more than willing to listen, right? As the poll has shown, if people want something and I didn't think about it, and people are going to mint it, we'll be there for you and we'll make it.
Another question: will there be another mint for Transcendent Tadpoles after a while when more people can collect them?
Maybe another mint of tadpoles, but
So
probably not.
no more
But probably not
Transcendent.
transcendent
Okay.
tadpoles. Yeah.
So this will be a one-time, very exclusive mint for Transcendent Tadpoles, correct?
Very exclusive, considering that there's only like 40K or whatever PDWL and like in circulation. Yeah, it's very limited, and yeah, I don't plan to release specifically those tadpoles again. Maybe healthy tadpoles someday in the future, maybe, but not transcendent ones.
Okay. Dan Midge said maybe it's a good time to talk about the PD whitelist tokens from the mint. What from the mint will be used for? What they'll be used for? I think you had mentioned this, or at least
Yeah.
mentioned it in passing earlier.
Yeah. We will take all of the we will take all the PDWL that we get from the mints, and we will combine them with our dollars that I will cry that I have to put in the LP pool, but we're going to do that. We will take everything and put it in the LP, and we will solidify the LP that way.
All right, it looks like this is a quality of life question. One mass claim PD whitelist from Incubator.
Tag Grantee as I did before. I think you could, squeeze that in. Not that it shouldn't be that hard. It's also a very niche thing because there's probably only like 10 people that are interested in this feature, but I'm sure it's gonna come at some point.
Another question: will the new token be released along with Gathering?
No new token.
Yeah, no new token.
No. Not yet.
RB says, what's what lets people let the cheaper 1,500 go for 1K then? I I don't really understand the question. Might have to rephrase that. Unless you understand that, D.
I think maybe he's asking why should people go for the 1K tadpole
Right.
instead of like for 500. It's because the generation on them, the daily generation scales differently. So while the 1K gets you 5 tokens per day, the 500 one doesn't give you 2.5. It scales lower, not significantly to where it's bad, but if you can, you should optimally go for 1K. Because the scaling is just different.
And I think it's just to allow people who, don't or can't afford or don't have enough to get the 1K one the option so they're not completely left out.
Yeah, we want people to participate.
Is there a supply limit of transcendent tadpoles? Would be sad if people missed out because it minted out?
I mean, it's technically capped by the amount of PDWL that's existing. That's the only cap there is. Other than that, it's like probably going to be around. It's probably going to last about 3 days. And yeah, the cap is just the tokens in existence. So I guess in a way, that determines like how many 1K ones or 500 ones get minted. But yeah, there's no set limit.
All right, no set limit dictated by just the sheer amount of PD whitelist tokens in circulation. Okay. So I don't see any more questions about Transcendent Tadpoles, so it's probably a good time to move on to our next topic, which is the Founder's Pass.
Oh yeah. So I've seen some people get a bit confused by the wording. Some people think that the Founder's Pass is a permanent pass, which is not the key. Which maybe that's my fault, and I will probably rename the pass. It will be a yearly pass. So this is the first year pass, and you get your benefits for the full year. It's not permanent. Temporary Founder's Pass. Sure, that works. Yeah, it's gonna probably cost around $160. The full mints that you get from the Founder's Pass are gonna be at or exceed $200. So our goal is, if you are a supporter of the project that's looking at it long term, you pay less, we secure the funds, and you get more in return than what you paid for. And you also get a bonus of like 30 PDWL tokens airdropped every single month, which, considering that they are going to have like in-game utility, it's pretty good. And maybe there's some like surprises on top of that. I mean, whenever like we launch any new mint, we usually do airdrops. So, it might happen. It's pretty likely to happen, but I'm not saying it will happen.
So, a couple of people in the chat talking about, and you had mentioned it about the miscommunication of the name of the pass. Tembo mentioned yearly pass branding would be more clear. It'd be more fun to have a founder's pass. So I think that the name in itself is obviously very confusing. Granted, the space and how founders passes have historically worked when it comes to NFTs. So
Right. I actually have a thing to say about that. So I'm really not a fan of like permanent founders passes, because what actually happens with these games is, as a company, you think that, wow, I'm gonna release this permanent passes. I'm gonna get like $300 up front from like all of these users. So they add like these obscene buffs to these passes, and guess what? The game continues on, and now we're in debt to all of these players to just generate this infinite stream of amazing benefits. Is just not a sustainable thing to do. Yeah, I don't. I don't like permanent passes, and as long as I'm the head of the project, I don't think we're gonna have permanent passes unless they're like really expensive to where you can justify giving a buff that's insanely strong and it's permanent.
All right. I really like Sirius's idea. What was it? Founders pack trading cards. Founders Pass comes with a pack of team trading cards. I heard the D card is a holo of him eating ramen. Do you
Oh, me
even
eating
like
ramen?
ramen?
I mean, ramen is okay, I guess. It's not potatoes, but you
It's
know.
not potatoes. It's just a picture of him eating a bowl of potatoes because he really likes potatoes.
Yeah,
No salt, no seasoning, nothing, just potatoes.
yeah. There's a foil card of me like with my head is like where my head is like literally just inflating in real time, but I'm also crying at the same time because I'm a god, but I also hate myself.
All right, moving on.
All right, moving on.
There's only so many tadpoles available. How will newer players obtain PD whitelists? Very good question.
Well, the thing about the whitelist tokens is that they are supposed to be privileged tokens. Not everyone is meant to generate them. They are for the real OGs that have been there like now and before now. So you own the privilege to do specific tasks quicker within the game. And then if you want to, you can pass on that privilege to new players. So you have the power with these tokens. So you like it's up to you. Do you want to sell them to the new players? Do you want to just send them to some new players, like your friends or whatever? It's up to you. But we will not print them and like send them out to just anyone. People generate them, not us.
Essentially, like a lot of other projects, for those of you who are familiar with DGods and how DGods, every DGod generates dust, like DGods are very expensive, and dust is a very premium token generated to the community that supported the project very early on. So it's that similar concept. So someone can't just come into the ecosystem and generate these privileged tokens that people have gotten for supporting the project.
Yep.
Now, that's not to say they couldn't buy them, which is the case here, and for most utility tokens, where users generate them and then they're able to sell them on the open market, depending on what's being released. If there's a mint, if they don't have a frog to generate or a tadpole to generate it themselves, they can just buy it on the secondary market. So it's really, really honestly bringing value to the people that do own them.
Yeah. And also, it's not to say that you won't get chances to actually get the tokens within the game, but the amount that you're going to get is going to be pretty minuscule compared to what other players actually generate if they have tadpoles and frogs.
RBS, are there any partnerships or collaborations in place to attract more players? So we do plan to do some more heavy marketing once resource gathering is close to release. There was a project that we were in talks with, but that's still up in the air. They do have a similar concept when it comes to the ethos of the project and what they're trying to achieve. But again, none of this is set in stone. We're still working on that, but once resource, we wanted essentially to have a minimum viable product to release before we started some serious collaborations and partnerships. And now that we're getting closer to that goal, we can really start moving heavily into those partnerships.
Oh yeah. Also, remember that game where you like farm stuff? It's like it, it has sunflowers in the name or whatever, right? That game, yeah. We still have a partnership with them. When I say partnership, I mean I personally bought the resources from that game. So once resource gathering is out, we'll be able to actually get resources from a sunflower land. You'll need to claim them on chain. But yeah, once our resource gathering is out, you will be able to get sunflower land resources at the same time as you gather ours. and you do with those as you please.
So Midas asked about a permanent pass, and I think D made it very clear about his thoughts about something like a permanent founder's pass and
Yeah.
how he does not like
Yeah.
that
The
model.
only way in which I would be down to release permanent passes is that the costs should justify releasing it permanently. Like, you can't release a permanent founder's pass and it'd be really strong, and then it only like generates revenue for like a few months for the team. It just doesn't make sense. Tell the price. $1 billion.
Wow,
Pinky laugh. Yes.
that's a big number.
Yeah.
All right. I don't see any more questions about the founder's pass, so this will be a good opportunity for us to move on to our last topic, which will be the PD whitelist token changes and anything the community needs to know about that.
Right. So initially, when we built everything around our project, we thought that the token is only going to be there for whitelists, hence the name. But as we branch everything out and we want to provide actual utility for the token, we thought that it would be wise to actually add utility for it. Now, it's still a privilege token. As Dad talked about earlier, you should be rewarded for being there early and gathering these like tokens. So the way it's going to work is that there will probably be caps around you using it. But let's say, for example, you have sent out your order for 16 hours, gather wood, or maybe once or a few times per day. You can pay a specific amount of these tokens, and either you finish the task completely, or you significantly rush it. And it's the same thing for other tasks. So if you refine resources and it takes a long time, maybe you pay the tokens to rush that. So most actions within the game should have the ability to be done quicker if you pay the token. However, it should be capped, so it's not obscenely overpowered. But that's the use that we have in mind for now. And also still for future mints probably as well.
So it looks like Tumbo had a question about being grandfathered. I think you had mentioned it. I know this is, I know this having come from SFL, but what does it mean that we're grandfathered? Just that we're lucky to have a chance to mint frog, seals, otters, right?
Um, so that's interesting. In a way, I mean, being grandfathered means that you got really freaking lucky because you got to mint the frogs for like 100 SFL, which was like $8 at the time. And you just get to be early in our project because we started off by just making free stuff for Sunflower Land and getting paid nothing for it. And we decided, why do that? We think we can compete with other projects in the space, obviously, and that's why we did it. So by being grandfather, it just means you're really early in this. I'm not sure what else to even say. Just that we were lucky to have a chance to mid front. Yeah, I mean, basically, other than you being super early and having these opportunities to be here this early on, other than that, I'm not sure what to say. We're really glad that we have these like players that came from that community and actually stayed here and support us.
Which
Like,
we super appreciate. Super, super
yeah,
appreciate.
on a personal level, on a deeply personal level, I was really hopeless in my life, and it's only for these people that I've made friends, people support me, is that I my life literally changed, and hopefully we can keep building, make a game that's actually unique, good, and people enjoy it.
Shukriti asks, will tadpoles become frog someday?
Should they?
Should they? That's a good
Should
question.
they?
I mean,
Guys, should they? Should they? Should the tadpoles become frogs? I don't see actual like answers.
We have one, yeah.
Well, one yeah ain't gonna make it.
If tadpoles evolve, then yeah.
Yeah, but then how do you make new tadpoles? See, the way that this is gonna come out is gonna become a pyramid scheme then. We don't want a pyramid scheme here, okay? This is not
You have to
X.
bring
I'm
on
sorry.
3 tadpoles in order to evolve into a frog. And then you have to have 6 frogs in order to evolve into a bullfrog.
Mm.
And then, so that means you have.
Are you reading this or are you just making it up, Ellie?
I'm making it up as I go. I'm designing the pyramid scheme as I go.
Right.
That's
I
too
love the pyramid scheme mechanic of there not being new tadpoles generated in any way.
The tadpoles is just a word for players. We have to bring in new tadpoles and have at least 6 tadpoles under you, and then you become a frog. And then you need to have 4 frogs under you to become a bullfrog.
See,
the
that's
true
why you're
pyramid scheme.
That's why you're the PR person.
Gullah Gullah Poliwag is final evolution. When Otter's utility, once resource gathering is released, all of the NFTs, well, all of the creature NFTs will have utility built in. All right, any other questions, guys? Sorry, go ahead.
I think Tiffany needs to go to sleep. She said, "What if you convert your NFT tadpole to a real life tadpole and incubate it yourself?" Well, I don't know, Tiffany. You should try and like buy a tadpole and then incubate it yourself and tell me how it goes. And then make a vlog or something. Okay. Any actual questions from anyone?
Any other questions, guys?
We're kind of crossing into the shitposting realm here.
I don't think there's any more questions about any questions about resource gathering, tadpoles, founders pass, PD whitelist token changes.
Oh, in general, I want to actually say one thing. So I've seen some people. So first of all, I'm a stalker, so I check every language chat. So if any of you are talking any shit in any of the language chats, I read everything, okay? So I've seen some people be actually upset that apparently we're like trying to sell things before the game is released. I just want to make a few things clear. I will never try to sell you anything until we have something there that's playable. That's our ethos, and I think that I'm surprised that isn't clear yet, because we could have released multiple mints and try to like get your money at every single step, but we didn't, even though money's really nice, right? So anything that we talked about today, any of the mints, any of the stuff, is only going to come when you can use your assets. So even if we're late or like mechanics are delayed, maybe we don't, for some reason, whatever it is, we don't manage to like launch resources in July. The mints are not going to come out in July then. They will only come out once you can use their stuff, and that's that. No one's trying to rob anyone. We're trying to be as transparent as possible at every single step.
We do have another question about mechanics. So before we cut this off, I'll answer this. Resources will be gathered separately by each creature and not squads, or will there be some squad function?
So in general, the way we envision the overworld gameplay is that we want it to be deep. At first, you gather resources with your creatures, one by one. You send them out to gather them. How squads are going to work out is we will have missions, and missions will have certain requirements of traits. That's why we have trait zones. Missions will require certain traits. Let's say it's 5 traits, 4 traits, however many traits, and you'll need to assign a squad that ideally fits all of the traits that are required, or as many as you can, to reach a high percentage to actually complete your mission. So missions are like another layer of resource gathering, but that's where the squads will come in, and that's where you will need actual like trait stones. You will like infuse your trait stones onto your creatures and so on. So squads will be useful later on, but initial resource gathering is just one by one. You send out your creatures.
All right, and it looks like there are no more questions, and it's actually a perfect time for us to close this off. Really appreciate everyone coming and listening to AMA today. And this will be recorded, and we will be posting it to our socials. I'll be posting it to YouTube. Might be posting it to Twitter, and then we'll also be posting it to Discord. So thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. Really super appreciate it. Dee, thank you for enduring this. I know that you're probably sweating and you need to go take a shower after this.
Hold up. I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Okay.
I will get used to this. I need to get used to this.
Yes. And hopefully Dee will be doing some more frequent AMAs and maybe even some streams, possibly.
Yeah, I'd love to do some streams where we play other games that are inspiration for our own game, and where we can talk about mechanics that we like, what we don't like, what we think is viable in Web3 or not viable, and stuff like that.
All right, awesome. Thank you everyone for coming, and we will see you in the chat. Woo woo.